Alright, what's up guys? My name's Eric, obviously what you said, and my topic today is legalization of recreational marijuana, and my claim is basically it should be legalized throughout the United States. And why do I think that? Because first, the legalization of marijuana promotes like economic growth, and our economy right now is like improving, but it could be better. And also, like, the marijuana will also lower crime-related activity as well as crime suits. That falls into crime-related activity. And last but not least, it provides like a safer alternative, like compared to alcohol and tobacco. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with the first, like why it promotes economic growth. And the reason why is marijuana leads to like an increase in tax revenue, and then some like statistics to go with that. Some guy named Jeffrey Myron, a Harvard economist from the Cato Institute, he quotes that legalization could generate nearly $10 billion in tax revenue a year. And then if like you add that up, if we legalize it now, it'll just like keep adding up. So that's a benefit towards legalizing marijuana. And also legalizing marijuana could also lower taxes and reduce the deficit, like possibility. Because a quote from Ike Brennan, president of Capital Policy Analytics, it's a consulting firm. If Congress can create a new revenue stream from legalization, then it may become possible to lower tax rates while also reducing the deficit. And from there, it's basically like why do we have to why do like gangs and stuff have to sell marijuana when like we could, like, the country can generate revenue off that to go back into like our budget and stuff. And then going on to my second point of how legalizing marijuana can lower crime-related activity. So I'm basically saying prohibition of marijuana contributes to violent crimes being committed. And Scott Bates, principal investigator at Boreal Economic Analysis and Research, said that violent crimes in Alaska increased dramatically after marijuana was recriminalized. And then like 10 years later, crimes went up by like just a little over 100%, so that's a pretty big jump. And then my next point would be the prohibition of marijuana generates like a black market, because it's illegal right now. So like the only way is like you either get like a clinic card, which is kind of sketchy to do, because like why would you be carrying around a clinic card? That's just like weird. And like so basically like the game, you get to buy from like a black market basically. And then that's another quote from the same guy, Scott Bates. He said marijuana prohibition creates a black market instead of eliminating it. So like why do we have a law that makes marijuana illegal when it just creates something else that's just as illegal? And then so basically prohibition increases violent crime by preventing black market participants from resolving the differences through standard non-violent mechanisms. So basically if they have an issue, they can't go to like the police with, oh, this guy didn't give me my money for my marijuana. So you have to like find justice yourself. You gotta like, hey, where's my money? And then basically it's just like a war, all-out war back after that. And then so after that, black market, marijuana like leads to death, so since it's illegal, obviously the price is gonna go up. So basically, like, let's say the only way to pretty much save money on marijuana is like buying in bulk. So, and if you buy in bulk, that's obviously gonna be more money. Like right now, a pound of marijuana is like a couple grand. So basically, if you order a pound, like just to save like a couple $100, because that's how dealers do it, you're basically like risking yourself. Like the person that's carrying the money that's buying it, you could get easily robbed. Like they wouldn't even have the marijuana. And then like, or like let's say you're the one that's selling it, and then you have like the pound, someone could like rob you off that. So pretty much prohibition of marijuana is not good. And then marijuana also provides like a safer alternative to alcohol and tobacco. There's a research from the National Institute on Drug Abuse. It's a quote from them. It said, evidence for a link between marijuana use and lung cancer has thus far been inconclusive. So basically, right now, as of now, if you smoke, you can smoke as much weed as you want and not get lung cancer. As opposed to like cigarettes, that's pretty addictive, and you could contract lung cancer like just from that. And then moving on to alcohol. Alcohol, you can easily get alcohol poisoning, like just from drinking too much. The more you drink, the less you feel. But it's pretty much nearly impossible to overdose from marijuana. And then I have a quote from a guy named Johnny Green. He's an activist, bachelor's in public policy. He said, "A smoker would theoretically have to consume nearly 1,500 pounds of marijuana within about 15 minutes to induce a lethal response." So I'm assuming, like, how are you gonna do that? How, no one can smoke 1,500 pounds in 15 minutes. Like, the only way I'm thinking is, like, someone's gonna strap you down and, like, inject you a bunch of THC, and I'm pretty sure that's not gonna happen. And that's just a waste of weed. So basically, and so just to wrap up my claim, I'm gonna just say it again. Recreational marijuana should be legalized throughout the United States because it offers, like, more benefits than harm. Like, the worst thing that can do is, like, a kid's just gonna end up smoking it, but they do that now anyway. So yeah, that's my speech.
All right, well, your argument is a claim of policy as it's being presented. We should legalize marijuana. The word should, we've talked about that before, implies a policy claim, which means I think that the respondent will feel entitled to offer whatever refutation would occur if we were to legalize, which is different than the argument that says legalization would have these specific benefits. I think that's the way you wanted your proposition to be phrased, so that the argument will be focused on the claims of economic growth, lower crime activity, and it being safer, as opposed to other arguments like expanded use, car crashes, decreased productivity, schizophrenia, any of the negative things that go along with marijuana would suddenly now become relevant because it's a policy argument. Also, if it is in fact replacing the industry that you say, whether it is tobacco or alcohol, if it were to significantly damage those industries, there would be economic consequences of that, and we'd have to know that you could balance the economic benefit that you're talking about with the economic harm that has occurred. None of which would be relevant if you just talked about, like I said, what the benefits of legalizing were, and then that's what we would be talking about. So that's one of the consequences of having a policy argument, is that it immediately involves a lot of rebuttal issues that wouldn't have been relevant otherwise. I did think that you did a very nice job previewing what the secondary points were, and I do think that there's a way to phrase it that you're focusing on a claim of fact, but you just sort of missed that. Like I said, you labeled the secondary claims. I don't think there's too much doubt that there's some controversy on this issue, so that's fine. You signpost the points in the body of the speech. That's good. I think that organizes things pretty well. Sometimes the proof on the individual points is a little bit thin, but you did have information on almost all of the points. I like the data that you had on tax revenue. I think you want to be a little bit careful about talking about what the on-balance effect is going to be, because automatically there are going to be consequences of legalization that might also involve some economic element there, and you don't really have any comparative data on that. I don't understand the reference to Alaska. It's rushed by. I think there's probably a context here that would help explain it, but because you don't give us a very clear explanation of that context, the information doesn't seem nearly as useful as you seem to think it is. And then we got a lot of hypotheticals about, people perhaps encouraging crime because they buy marijuana and make money off of marijuana. Well, crime is encouraged anytime somebody makes money. There's somebody to rip off. I think the argument that you want to make is you're on the brink of making it in a couple of places, and that is that they don't have legitimate means for resolving disputes. But I think then you'd have to show that the crime that you're talking about is connected to that, as opposed to they're just trying to get rid of all their rivals, which, is, I'm not exactly sure how legalization is going to fix that unless everybody just grows their own, in which case you won't have to worry about it. And is that the model that you think you're going to see? That would be something else that I think would have to be developed. The evidence on cancer was a little bit thin. It basically denies any relationship to lung cancer, or at least it minimizes it in some direction. But is that the only risk that is suggested from marijuana consumption? I'm not exactly sure that that's the best comparison to be making. And then the idea of it being toxic, I don't think anybody thinks that you're going to overdose on that. And your bachelor's degree in public policy that is quoted on this, I don't know how they arrived at the conclusion that you'd have to consume 1,500 pounds in 15 minutes in order to reach a toxic level. Toxicity might depend on the amount of THC in the drug, and there may be other effects that go along with it, as opposed to instant death. There may be other things that are going on. In places where they have legalized marijuana, there have been some of those kinds of issues, and it seems like that would make sense to use as a place for doing some research also. I thought that the summary was pretty solid. You do an okay job speaking to the audience, although I think sometimes the way you're citing the evidence needs to be a little bit more clear. It started off much better than it was in the beginning of the speech than it was toward the end of the speech, and I think you need to be more consistent on that. All right, thank you.